Welcome to OBM Unscripted, where the systems get sassy, tech tantrums are tamed, and real talk rules the mic.
We're your hosts. I'm Christy Beard, your go-to strategist and business coach.
I'm Manita Brooks, your operations and tech whisperer.
And I'm Lena May, the guru of systems and workflow magic.
We're all accredited OBMs, and we have seen it all.
If you've ever wanted to scream into a client brief, cry over Zapier, or Google, "Can I invoice for emotional labor?" you're in the right place.
This is your space for behind-the-scenes stories, hot takes, and community vibes for OBMs, VAs, and online service bosses.
Real talk, real answers.
Unfiltered,
Unscripted.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to OBM Unscripted. We're happy to have you here. Today, we are talking about high-performing OBMs on the edge of burnout. A lot of us have already experienced that this year, especially going into Q4. So we're going to open up a discussion and talk about that today. And if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. And it really helps out our channel. So let's get started. Christy, I'm going to start with you because you just came back from a little vacation and now you have a cold.
Yes.
You were on the edge of burnout right before you took your little vacation. So talk to us a little bit about what was happening as you were leading into your vacation and now how you're dealing with a cold and getting back into the swing of things.
Well, the cold definitely makes me happy that I batch because I'm not under pressure to do all the things when I'm under the weather. I think I have what I would call a planned burnout. So I do 10 days off every quarter, and I am usually work, and then I'm so ready for that break. So I instituted that at the beginning of this year, and I'm really glad that I did. I tend to take a little more in Q4 just because there's so many holidays that hit all together. But if you're not doing it, I highly recommend it because for me, what it does is it allows me to have my boundaries or parameters on really working really hard and getting everything done and knowing I look forward to my 10-day breaks. And when they get closer, I'm like, "Ooh, yay, it's coming. So it's something that I am happy that I have instituted, and I highly recommend it. It's definitely helped me when I do come back from them, even though I have a cold this time. I look forward to coming back. I'm refreshed. I'm more clear. I'm ready to hit the road running. So I'm super happy that I've instituted these.
So, Maniva, earlier in the year, you had a kind of burnout moment during your transition. Talk to us a little bit about that. I don't want to give anything away. I want you to tell us.
Laughing because honestly, I don't even know when that point started, and I don't even know if that point even ended, to be honest. I feel like sometimes you just get stuck in a perpetual burnout loop where you're always in burnout, but you're still functioning anyway. It's tricky because I think for me, being a single parent, I'm always on. And you're always on, and you're always in survival mode, and you're always trying to move to the next thing, take one step in front of the other, and keep going, and keep pushing. And there really isn't downtime. So for me, I think I might go through cycles of worse burnout and then cycles of less burnout, if that makes sense. But it's really tricky because it's not just the work, of course, the workload, sometimes you can control that, how many clients you take on, how you scope your projects. And yes, that does help. That alleviates some of the pressure, the way you run your business. But then you also have like stuff going on in the background that happens in real life. And unfortunately, you can't always switch that off. You can't always organize your way around it. But what I found is what I can do is really focus on how I'm reacting to situations. And for me, it's super helpful to try and look at what part of a situation do I actually have control over, and what really is out of my control and really should be put on the back burner. Like, sometimes there's stuff that's happening at, my daughter's school. Okay, great. What part of that can I control, and what part of that is out of my control at this point? And then when I break it into little chunks like that, it kind of feels easier. But it's a tricky one. Sometimes things just compound one on top of the other. And it kind of makes me think about you, Lena, and what you're actually going through right now.
Do tell, do tell.
Oh my goodness. So my move didn't go as planned. And of course, I had client work built up during the week. I was supposed to already be moved. So that's been a bit of a challenge trying to finish out my move this week and do extra client work and try to get to my new home and deal with a family reunion that's coming up. So there are a lot of things that, I'm too burned out to even cry about it, right? But I am looking forward to, I know on the upcoming Sunday, I know that I will have a break. I can turn everything off, just rest my body and get refreshed to jump back in. So I don't actually have any time off scheduled until Thanksgiving, which is another family type thing where again you're always on because you're seeing family that you haven't seen in a while. And I'm really grateful hearing about Christie's system because now I know while planning for year to work in those little, even if it's a 3 or 4 day weekend, to work those in so they're planned. And then just give myself a nice little cushion in there so I'm not just freaking out all the time.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think something that for me, the reason that I instituted my 10 days off, and it sounds like a lot, but it's really like a weekend and a weekend and then a whole week. So it kind of trails into 10 days. But one of the reasons I did that was because I'm transitioning into the online space from brick and mortar, and it's a whole new beast as far as setting things up, getting oriented, meeting new people, getting in the online space in different groups and that sort of thing. So I was putting in lots of hours, probably for the first, I don't know, year and a half and almost 2 years. So my kids are all in college and grown, and my husband has a restaurant. So I am home a lot now that I'm not doing on-site work. And so I literally would spend 14, 16-hour days in front of my computer building the business, building my back end, putting systems in place, getting, the skeleton and everything in order, and meeting people and doing groups and all of the things. And so it's a lot. And I think I was hitting burnout because it's like, how many Zoom calls can you do in a day, especially as an introvert? And so it takes a toll after a while. And if you're working 14, 16-hour days, 6 days a week, it will burn you out. And then also doing all the other things, the household things. And I help my husband with his business on the admin side. And so combining all of those things together, it's a lot. And I think I got to a point to where I was like, okay, I'm starting this business so I can have more freedom, but this does not feel like freedom. I left like a 9 to 5er to have a 16er. No, I don't think so. It's like, well, that didn't sound right, to have a, a 9 to 9, I guess, or something. But anyway, it wasn't what I wanted. And so I was like, if I'm going to do this, which I am, what do I want it to look like? And now when I do my planning, I have already got my 2026 10 days planned out. I know when they're happening, and I've got a few of them early on where I know what I'm going to be doing, and I'm looking forward to those. But I definitely hit a burnout at first, the first year and a half or 2 years. And so I think that's one of the reasons I did institute this, to keep myself from doing that moving forward.
One of the things that I realized this week in coping with everything that's been going on is that I received an email from one of my clients, and I was not in the headspace to actually deal with that email right then. I was smart enough to say, I'm not going to respond to this right this second. So I took a deep breath. I went for a walk. I actually sat on that email 24 hours, came back with a clear head, read it again, and I was like, that's not what I thought it said. So I had totally read it differently in my burned out state of mind than it was really written. And that was a big turning point for me this week in learning how to deal with that. So if my immediate reaction isn't a good one, it's telling me, hey, you maybe need to unplug, disconnect for a second, and then come back and read this again. It wasn't as bad as my brain had made it out to be. And I know that, you can't always trust your brain. Maniba, I know you see this with your clients a lot. I actually heard you in my head at one point going, Lena, step away, just take a beat and go do something else. And it was just like, she's here. Great.
So fun.
Tell me more about what tell everybody really what you tell your clients when you have a client who's just totally.
It's really tricky because when you have a brain that runs on a dopamine deficit, you can't always plan time off, and then that time off is actually productive in helping you prevent burnout. It's really tricky because you really have to be in tune with your brain and what's going on, and how you manage your energy on a day-to-day basis. Because again, sometimes you'll wake up in the morning and you are at 200%. You can conquer the world. You can do everything. In that same week, you will wake up the next day and be like, didn't put pants on today. I've accomplished everything. So it's really tricky where you can't always follow the generic advice where, set aside, a few days every quarter and do this. And because your brain doesn't always like a schedule, it kind of does what it wants to do. So I think what I would tell them and what I implement in my own life is have a scaffolding of support. So it's kind of reframing the way you take breaks and how you identify wins. So, for example, the way I now set up my work week, where I front load client meetings at the beginning of the week, I have a full workday blocked out, and then, I'll do some follow-up planning and stuff at the end of the week. That flow seems to work for me, but if I need to switch around a few, like say Wednesday is my focus day and I'm not waking up with focus, I can switch around my Friday itinerary to Wednesday and then have Wednesday fall later in the week. So that flexibility is kind of built in where I'm working with the way my brain works and my energy capacity. But then I'm not tied to this now rigid schedule that, I have to do all of these things every single day, even though my brain is not functioning. Some days, Mondays are when I do a lot of my client calls. And some days my brain's just not switched on that day. But I think I have a good enough relationship with my clients where I'm like, okay, we got to keep this surface level because it's not firing. And then we end up talking about other things that do make the conversation productive. So having that scaffolding is super helpful. I think also finding little wins and little ways that you can kind of find relaxation in the moment. So I am primary parent with my daughter. There's no visitation. She doesn't go anywhere. She's with me 100% of the time. So there is no downtime. If I'm not working, I'm parenting. And that's the way my life is structured. And to be honest, I wouldn't have it any other way. I love this format. But so when she's with me on the weekends, of course, she's not ready to sit on the couch or play by herself. And while I do some work, she wants one-on-one time. So I kind of reframe that in my mind that this is the time to relax. This is the time to have fun because I love nothing more than connecting with my daughter. And that's what we end up doing. So we go do crazy things, like she's super girly and into like makeup and all this kind of stuff. And I was never into that at her age. So I kind of take it as a learning experience that, okay, we're going to have fun and let's see what happens today. So we end up, just doing a makeup party in the house, and we connect and we have fun and we laugh and there's joy. And I think for me, that really recharges my batteries. So it's not something huge, like I got to spend all this money to go on a trip, or I got to take a whole week off or whatever. I can find those little moments in between to recharge. And I think that's kind of what keeps me going, even though on some days it still does feel like perpetual burnout, but there are, glimmers of light in between.
Yeah, I have to force myself to do the days off because I'm a worker. I like to stay busy. And so that was my way of like sticking to rest time or downtime or me time. And I don't allow myself anymore. When I first instituted it, it was really hard not to work. And so I would still do like little projects. I'm not doing that anymore, but it was my way of instituting downtime, because if I didn't do that, I would literally work all the time. What triggers do you guys see that help you know that you're hitting the burnout or that you're full on in complete burnout mode?
Lena, you want to go first?
Usually it's my reaction to something. Like if I have a quick reaction to something instead of just a smooth transition, I know right that second I need to step away. I need to go for a walk. I need to do something and get out from in front of the computer. The other thing is if I'm not sleeping at night because I'm rolling through what's happened during the day and how to fix things and not in a good way, then that's my other trigger. Like, you need to take some time away here because your sleep is now disruptive. And if I don't get enough sleep, I am useless to myself and to my clients. And if I'm ever feeling those things, that's my immediate, you need to chill.
It's your
Yeah,
red
I
flag.
would add one more to that for myself is if I sit at my desk and I just don't want to do it, that's a massive red flag saying, okay, you're overloaded. Now we've got to take a step back and try and figure out what's going on. I also am a worker. I work. That's all I do. I'm doing something at every single moment of the day. And I've been like this for years. I don't know how to stop. Even when I was working for an employer, vacations were few and far between, because even on the vacation, I would be like, okay, I'm pulling the house apart and we're going to reorganize everything and we're going to donate some stuff. And so there was always a project. It was never like, I'm going to go to the beach and rest. That was never a thing for me. I always work. So when I actually sit down and I'm like, I don't want to do it, then I know, okay, it's now reached the point where I've got to take a step back and look at exactly what's happening in my life and my environment that I can try and tackle a little bit at a time, or just step back from completely and, allow myself that moment of rest.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. For me, it's when I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my to-do list and I'm like, I could do that later. And then I push it, and I could do that later, and I push it. And well, let's just push today to tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens after that. I will say too, what you had said, even though I do take the time off, I'm also doing projects. I tear down the house. I do my spring cleaning, and it's not, I mean, even when I'm in what I would say my rest time, I'm still multitasking. Like, I can't just sit and watch TV. I have to watch TV and crochet because I need to be doing something productive and have something to show for the time that I've sat there. So I totally get it.
We do that to ourselves.
Right? I was just about to ask that. Why do you think, because we are workaholics, why do you think it's so hard for us to shut our brains down?
Well, I know there's a psychological explanation for why, but
Okay,
I
tell
I
the
don't know.
psychological and then we'll tackle ourselves.
I was reading about this, as I do, because my other hyper focus is parenting and parenting techniques and the psychology behind everything and deep diving into the reasons why people do the things they do. But
So you're
It was
resting.
something, yeah, that's what happens. You latch onto a topic, and that's all you see for a good couple months until it doesn't become interesting anymore. But it was something about how sometimes the environment that you're raised in, where if your worth is tied to what you can produce or your output. So, for example, the saying that, oh, that was such a great thing, you did so good, and you did this, and there was always like some kind of string attached to your accomplishments, and if you didn't get that straight A, then it was like, oh, that's disappointing. So we internalize that message within ourselves, and we're like, I'm not worthy enough unless I'm doing something, and unless I'm producing something, unless I've done something with my life. And you don't give yourself permission to rest because you're always trying to chase that bar of, I have to prove my worth. It's a bit dark and a bit sad, but that could be one explanation, depending on, I don't know how everybody's childhood went, but that could be a reason. No clue.
There is some truth to that because I grew up, my dad was military, and when I think back on it, if we ever said we were bored, we were immediately punished with housework or yard work. So we learned real quick to never say we were bored, or if we were, to go be bored somewhere else because we didn't want to be punished with work. But as I grew to an adult, that just became, okay, I'm bored. What can I do? I think I do fall into that category quite a bit. What about you, Christy?
Yeah, I agree with both scenarios. And I think to add to that, it doesn't help if you're a perfectionist. And as I'm sitting and trying to relax, I'm looking around and I'm like, ooh, I need to fix that. Or, ooh, I need to do this. Or, my bathroom really needs a deep clean. Or, it's like my brain just never shuts off. But I think that also translates into why we're visionaries and entrepreneurs. It doesn't really matter what the topic is, our brain is always going. And learning how to turn that off just a little bit, I think, is important, because if we can't do that, then we definitely have the burnout issues. So know thyself, I guess, and figure out ways. So even if I'm watching TV and crocheting, to me that's like zoning out, because I'm not doing anything that takes a lot of heavy lifting on my brain. And so for me, that's just resting, and that's it's okay with me if I'm still doing something, but it's not quote unquote work. And so it does clear up my headspace and allows me to come back refreshed, even if I'm like deep cleaning, which I did partly on my last 10-day break, was deep cleaned the house and went through some things. And
That's
to
why she's
me,
sick.
yeah, well, but to me, I'm an organizational nut, so everything has a place. And so for me, that is relaxing to clean and go through things and organize. And I know I'm the redheaded stepchild over here for that one, because everybody's like, what? No. But, to each his own.
You're right in a lot of both of you have now said environment, and it's true, right? I have been living with moving boxes in my space. I'm feeling more and more claustrophobic as those moving boxes started getting filled, and I was becoming less productive to the point where I just emptied out one room in my house and then came into that room. There was nothing there. I was like, peace again. Now I can work. A chair, my laptop, and a little mini desk. Here we go. I got it. Completely agree with environment playing a role in that.
I can't, my gosh, you just hit a nerve. I cannot function in a cluttered environment. I can't. And if my house is a hot mess, I'm going to be a hot mess until I can get my house clean. Even if I'm shoving stuff in closets and hiding it until I can get to it, I will do it, because mentally, that's just clutter in my mind, and it makes me like get real close, and I can't deal with it. And so I will do everything I can to clean and keep my space clutter free, just because it helps me mentally not to feel cluttered, because all I'm seeing when I see clutter is my to-do list is growing. It's like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to, and it's like, it's too much. Yeah.
To actually let some of that go as I was parenting my daughter, because before it was everything had a place and it had to be exactly where it is. But as I was raising my daughter, I saw she was watching me, and she notices everything. And I kind of came to the realization that my neurosis is just impacting her in such a negative way, where now she's just like, doesn't want to make a mess because mom's brain is going to stop working. And I'm just like, you know what? That's stupid. I got to work on this. This is dumb. Like, why would I do that to my little child? It's like 3-year-old at that time. But yeah, so I don't live in a dump by any means, and I still like to have things cleaned up. But if she's leaving her toys out, as she does, because with her, it's like she's got a process. So she's got her Legos. She has a Lego table. She does keep it on the table, but the project is in progress. So we're not packing everything up, putting it into the box at the end of the day. She's leaving it. She's keeping it neat, but she's leaving it out there. Old me would have been like, this is crazy. This is messy. Why is it not in the box? But I'm starting to learn to be like, hey, it's okay. It's organized. She is making sense of it. It's great. It's going to be okay. And just learn to accept it and just be like, it's okay. It's good. All good. So I'm kind of letting go of that need to have everything in a certain way, in control of everything. And it's honestly a bit freeing, I think, because now I'm not obsessing about why this thing isn't in the box up on the third shelf in the kitchen and why is it out on the table. Now it's like, oh, all right, cool. And, it kind of helps me to let go of that pressure that I was putting on myself.
Yeah, when my children were young, I was the same. It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. And if, however, they cleaned it up, that was fine. But since they're all grown now, since they're all grown now, I can go back to everything has a place. It's my house, and I want it a certain way. And I mean, they help with that when they're here.
There are becoming more and more multi-generational households right now, just
Yeah.
because it is so expensive to have your own apartment, to live on your own, to support a family who is living away from you. This is stuff that we're going to start seeing more and more of as it moves forward. I'm seeing a lot of that in real estate now, where
Mm-hmm.
people are buying tri-level homes. So one part of the family lives on the ground floor, one part of the family lives in the middle, one part of the family lives at the top. And there might be a common room that they all share, like the kitchen and living areas.
Which we have actually talked about that. We've discussed it with his parents and the kids. I personally like that. I think it's a better way to go. And I think the people that do it understand that economically it's the smartest move ever, but it also creates kind of like what you were saying, Maniba, with the scaffolding support. It just creates support, and you have the different generations that have been there, done that, haven't been there yet, going through it, and then the ones that are living in it. And I think it's definitely the way to go. And so we have discussed just pulling resources together and finding something that would work for everybody. So I think, even though it's a side note, I think it is something that we're moving into, which would kind of go into the burnout and handling all the things and working from home with all the different people. And, I mean, it is a thing, scheduling and finding that balance. So,
Which is
Absolutely.
awesome if the family as a whole is agreeable to it. But then you do have family units who are like, get out of my space, get out of my face. I don't want to see you for the next month.
that's why
Get
you have
out.
different floors.
Nope, that's still too close. Still too close.
Geneva, have you met my brother? It sounds like you have.
I guess the luxury of having a loving, close-knit family is something to really be thankful for if that's your situation, because there's a lot of people who don't have that. And even if they wanted to live in like a joint communal environment, they don't have anyone to do that with because the situation they're coming from is just so toxic in itself. It's probably better that they just pinch pennies and make it on their own, because mental health wise, that's probably going to be better than trying to force a joint living situation. It's so sad. It's just
Yeah.
so bad.
It isn't for everyone, but it is optimal for those that can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, we have gotten so sidetracked, but this has been a great conversation. Hey, well, thanks for joining us today. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate you watching and sticking with us. Have a great rest of your week. Bye, everybody.